Chapter 1936, The Second Island Lord. Chapter 1936, The Second Island Lord. The female island lord stared at Yi Futian. The coercion of the Great Path was still strong. Had it been integrated by him? What did you get? She asked. Elixir, the life force of the Great Path. As soon as Yi Futian's voice fell, a most sacred emerald green divine brilliance gleamed. His body seemed to have been transformed into a divine tree with countless branches and leaves spread out, swaying in this space. The Great Path of Life was extremely majestic and vibrant. Yi Futian's body was also filled with radiant green divine brilliance, with a most powerful vitality. What else? The other continued to ask him, her gaze fixed on him. Yi Futian looked into those deep eyes and responded, "And I have inherited everything from the supreme deity Donglai." As soon as his voice fell, an invisible pressure of the Great Path enveloped this area. Not just the female island lord, but the few cultivators next to her also emitted an extremely powerful aura. Supreme deity Donglai was the belief of Eastern Deity Island. Even though he had fallen for many years, the people on Eastern Deity Island knew that he hadn't completely disappeared. They had always hoped that he would continue to exist forever so that one day he might wake up one way or another. But now it was inherited by Yi Futian. He's gone. A terrible power of the Great Path surged over the woman, and it seemed rather cold. He's gone, Yi Futian responded frankly. Supreme deity Donglai proclaimed that I could be counted as half a disciple of his and asked me to look after Eastern Deity Island in the future. You look after Eastern Deity Island? Said the other while looking at Yi Futian. I can't now, Yi Futian responded, but does the island lord think it will not be possible even in the future? The woman fell silent when she heard Yi Futian's words. She had been watching Yi Futian's performance. Even with Jiang Jiuming present, Yi Futian was still the one with the most outstanding performance in Eastern Deity Island. So, the movement of the flowering tree was also because of you. She continued, and Yi Futian nodded, did not deny it. Who are you? There is no major clan with the last name Yi in the surrounding continents. The female island lord stared at Yi Futian. She was a little suspicious of Yi Futian's identity and wondered whether he was coming for the elixir just like Jiang Jiuming. Pavilion Master of Dongyuan Pavilion, Yi Futian responded. Dongyuan Pavilion can't tolerate the likes of you, the other responded bluntly. Yi Futian gave a look at the people next to her, which caught her attention. Did he mean to have her dismiss her people before he would say more? You may go now, the island lord commanded. Several people glanced at Yi Futian coldly, then turned to leave. The island lord looked at Yi Futian and said, You can spill it now. Sure enough, just as she had thought, this man wasn't so simple. His past was extraordinary, or else he wouldn't request a private audience with her. An invisible power of the Great Path enveloped this area and sealed it. Yi Futian looked at the island lord. Since I have inherited everything from the supreme deity Donglai, naturally I am aware of its past. As he said, I am indeed half of a disciple to him. I can't cut off my relationship with the Eastern Deity Island. Therefore, I can tell the island lord my secrets to demonstrate my sincerity, but I also hope that the island lord will keep my secrets for me. Of course. The other nodded. I come from the original realm, said Yi Futian. Impossible. The island lord was surprised. How could you possibly come from original realm with this kind of cultivation? Obviously, she had heard of the original realm. After all, Eastern Deity Island was once prosperous. Her father was a top figure. They had talked about it. Whether the island lord believes it or not, I did come from the original realm. It is a fact. Yi Futian continued, while the beautiful eyes of the woman in front of him fixed on him. Although she knew of the original realm, to the vast majority of the forces in Divine Prefecture, the original realm only existed as a myth. And the young man in front of her came from the original realm. Even if I believe you, is this any secret? The island lord said to Yi Futian. Back then, I was hunted by the top powers of the Divine Prefecture in the original realm, including powers such as the Holy Land of Taichu, Yi Futian continued, and the other revealed a look of surprise. She had heard of Holy Land of Taichu, even if it never had any exchanges with Eastern Deity Island. but as one of the top forces in Divine Prefecture, she knew of its existence. Would such forces hunt Yi Futian down? My real name is Yi Futian. Yi Lionian is just a pseudonym. In the original realm, due to some circumstances, I was targeted by the forces in the original realm and those of the lower worlds in the Divine Prefecture, so I fled to Divine Prefecture, Yi Futian said. How did you manage to escape with your realm? The other asked. Princess Donghuang didn't want to see me die, Yi Futian responded. Princess Donghuang? The female island lord was already starting to believe in Yi Futian's story, but the more she listened, the more she felt it was implausible. She felt it's almost like a dream. A man of Lower Renhuang realm came to Eastern Deity Island for trial and obtained the opportunity of the Great Path. However, the characters and forces that he mentioned were inaccessible to those on Eastern Deity Island. How could this not make her feel a little surreal? Look at it yourself. Yi Futian shot a thought from his brow chakra toward the center of her brow chakra. She did not refuse and saw scenes appearing before her eyes. The battle in the original realm was also displayed. After watching, the female island lord's aura fluctuated slightly, staring at the man in front of her. This was a veritable genius. In the original realm, he had come into contact with the top powers and was valued by Princess Donghuang. No wonder such an extremely talented person traversed and dominated all of Eastern Deity Island, inherited the opportunity of the Great Path, and seized the elixir. Am I sincere enough? Yi Futian asked while the others still looked at him. Why tell me so much? The other asked him. These were Yi Futian's secrets. There was no need to tell her all of them. I inherited the elixir and the inheritance of the supreme deity Donglai. I could be considered as half of his heir. If I don't convince the island lord of my talent, it may put me at a disadvantage. On the contrary, if the island lord sees all this, the conclusion may very well be the opposite, Yi Futian responded frankly. He learned everything that Eastern Deity Island had experienced through supreme deity Donglai. Eastern Deity Island was now in desperate need of power, the reason why it was using the opportunity of the Great Path to attract talented men from outside. However, no matter how they recruit, even if Eastern Deity Island's strength increased, there would still be an upper limit. As long as Eastern Deity Island failed to produce a major figure, the limitation would always be there. Therefore, this could be the man who will give hope to Eastern Deity Island. Having inherited everything from Supreme Deity Donglai, with the promise to look after Eastern Deity Island, he would not mind help coming from Eastern Deity Island. You go back first, the island lord thought for a moment and said to Yi Futian. Her thoughts were mixed up, and she hadn't sorted them out yet. Very well. Yi Futian nodded slightly and left. Long after he left, the island lord of Eastern Deity Island still stared at his faded figure in a daze. Yi Futian from the original realm. Yi Lionian, the pavilion master of Dongyuan Pavilion. She had been recruiting genius talents for Eastern Deity Island. Finally, on this day, a genius had come, one that even the daughter of the great emperor had appreciated. Yi Futian's talent was undoubted. This was someone who could make the flowering tree run wild, allowing the divine tree to blend into the divine body, someone that Zifeng was willing to follow in cultivation. No matter how she looked at it, Yi Futian was the best candidate for Eastern Deity Island. But was he reliable? Previously at the banquet, Yi Futian casually gave out the refined thunder mastering pellets to those around him. He had performed well on Eastern Deity Island before. His character was gentle and erudite but ruthless toward the enemy. Perhaps this was destined to send Yi Futian to Eastern Deity Island. Island Lord. At this moment, a group of people landed next to Island Lord of Eastern Deity Island. Their eyes were full of doubts and questions. What did the white-haired man talk about with the Island Lord? From today onwards, Yi Lionian is the second Island Lord of Eastern Deity Island, and you will do all you can to provide full assistance to him. However, this matter is only known to you and cannot be publicized. His status is the same as mine, said the woman. Everyone around was a little surprised, their eyes on her. Was this to confirm the white-haired Renhuang as the heir of Eastern Deity Island? Even if he had gotten the inheritance of Supreme Deity Donglai, should a decision be made so quickly? Island Lord, do we need to discuss this matter further? Someone asked. No, I have made up my mind, so it is decided. The island lord's tone was determined, and everyone was a little concerned, unaware of what the two had talked about. But they knew the island lord, an extremely outstanding leader, whose action was always swift. Since she had already made the decision, they would not question her. They all nodded in response and left. Second island lord of Eastern Deity Island? Yi Futian didn't know any of this. After he returned, Zifeng asked him, "What did Sister Island Lord say to you?" "Nothing, just concerned for me," Yi Futian smiled. "Concerned for you?" Zifeng's beautiful eyes glanced at him with a look of contempt. This island lord did care for anyone, much less a man. Yi Futian nodded. "Although you plan to follow me to cultivate, you may still be on Eastern Deity Island often." Zifeng didn't quite understand it, and Yi Futian didn't bother to explain further. In his opinion, such a choice was actually straightforward. As smart as the island lord of Eastern Deity Island, she would make the best judgment. When faced with a win-win option, no one would choose to lose. "When are we leaving?" Beigong Shuang came over and asked Yi Futian. "Leave?" Yi Futian looked at Beigong Shuang and said, "Eastern Deity Island's fine wines and delicacies are all great. Why leave? Wasn't it nice to stay a few more days and enjoy the feast?" "You are not leaving?" Beigong Shuang looked confused, didn't quite understand. Yi Futian smiled and didn't say anything more. Of course, he wouldn't leave. From now on, this would be like his own backyard. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1937, Conferred. Chapter 1937, Conferred Eastern Deity Island. Those who planned to enter the core island gradually left. Several others chose to join Eastern Deity Island, preparing to stay there to cultivate. Yi Futian did not leave, staying on Eastern Deity Island to continue his cultivation. At Eastern Deity Island, delicacies were provided every day, with Goddess Baimu from Eastern Deity Island personally waiting on him daily. Many cultivators were a little unhappy with the situation, saying that Baimu was almost like Yi Futian's servant girl. They thought that Yi Futian must have agreed to join Eastern Deity Island to cultivate. But even if he had outstanding talents, there was no need to degrade Baimu like this. On Eastern Deity Island, Baimu's talent was one of the most outstanding. An empress who was so out of this world, now serving Yi Futian every day, made many felt quite odd. If the two were path companions, they would understand it. But Baimu didn't say anything, nor felt that she was being wronged. The order of the island lord must have its own reasons. As for the matter regarding the second island lord, it was not publicized by Eastern Deity Island, and only a few key people knew about it. Even the goddesses of Eastern Deity Island did not know anything. Of course, Yi Futian himself didn't know it either, but judging from the attitude of everyone, many things were becoming clear to him. On this day, in a hall on Eastern Deity Island, Baimu and a goddess Huang stood there, respectfully facing the peerless empress in front of him, the island lord of Eastern Deity Island. "Baimu, how are you getting along with Pavilion Master Yi these past few days?" the island lord asked. "Very well." Baimu nodded slightly. "Pavilion Master Yi is easygoing and easy to get along with." The island lord nodded slightly and glanced at that goddess Huang. Her name was Huang Yan, a direct disciple of the island lord herself. She was extremely talented and was regarded very highly. Seeing that her master now looked at her, Huang Yan said, "Master, there has been some gossip on the island these past few days. It's true that Pavilion Master Yi is extremely talented. Although he has entered the Eastern Deity Island to cultivate, is it necessary to give him such grand treatments?" The island lord glanced at her and said, "Huang Yan, you can leave for the moment now." Huang Yan was stunned by this reply. With some puzzlements in her eyes, she nodded and replied, "Yes, master." After that, she left, not knowing what she said that had displeased her master. Neither did Baimu. She was the only one left. "Baimu, what do you think of Pavilion Master Yi?" the island lord asked. "His talent is unparalleled." Baimu responded, Even Jiang Jioming from the ancient royal family is not necessarily more outstanding than him. Whether inside or outside of Eastern Deity Island, he had demonstrated unparalleled talent. The island lord nodded. Do you want to cultivate with him? Bai Mu was stunned. A strange look appeared in her beautiful eyes as she lowered her head slightly. Master, Pavilion Master Yi already has a path companion. Not as path companion, just to follow him in cultivation. The island lord knew that Bai Mu had misunderstood her meaning, and continued. Bai Mu looked up at her master in surprise. Did her master really want her to follow Yi Futian and serve him? Just how important was Yi Futian? Bai Mu will obey master's order, Bai Mu replied softly. It's not an order. I'm simply asking if you are willing. If you are not, I won't force you. What I need is someone who truly wanted to follow him in cultivation, and not just because I ordered it. He is here because you recommended him, so you know him the best. That's why I am asking for your opinion, the island lord continued. Bai Mu looked pensive when she heard her master's words. Judging from what her master said, she held Yi Futian in higher regard than she had previously thought. Bai Mu thought of how she had gotten to know Yi Futian. First, it was the battle between him and Jun Chuyan. Later, in Eastern Deity Island, when he disabled Jun Chuyan. At the time, she felt that Yi Futian was a little too impulsive and should not made such a move against Jun Chuyan. Things could be very dangerous to him in the future when he's in the outside world. However, now she realized that she might have overthought the matter. In Eastern Deity Island, Yi Futian was able to have an effect on her master to the point of assigning her to follow him. If the Jun family ever wanted to harm Yi Futian, it would be impossible for Eastern Deity Island not to get involved. I am willing. Bai Mu nodded and bowed. Perhaps following Yi Futian in cultivation was also a fated encounter. Let's see what it might bring. The island lord nodded slightly and said, In that case, I will tell you the truth. I have made Yi Futian the second island lord of Eastern Deity Island. The future of Eastern Deity Island may be tied to him. Do you understand? Bai Mu's beautiful eyes showed some surprise as she raised her head to look at her master. Elixir was obtained by him, and he had also gotten the inheritance of my father, the island lord continued. Her every word made Bai Mu's heart tremble. Indeed, she had underestimated him. No wonder the master wanted her to follow him around. At this time, the island lord took out a sacred ancient decree, which was filled with a powerful aura of the great path. The ancient decree flew toward Bai Mu and hovered in front of her. When Bai Mu laid eyes on the decree, her eyes betrayed her emotions, clearly recognizing it. Seeing it is like seeing me. Take it. Whenever you need it, you may use it. In addition, I will confer you as the goddess of Eastern Deity Island. The voice of the island lord caused an uneasiness inside Bai Mu. The bestowing of the ancient decree and conferring her as the goddess of Eastern Deity Island, all these just so that she would follow Yi Futian in cultivation. Most people on Eastern Deity Island don't know what happened today. It is only for your own knowledge, so do not disclose it to the others. Yes, Master. Bai Mu nodded. It seemed that Master chose her this time and entrusted her with an important task. Go, said the island lord. Bai Mu bowed slightly, then turned to leave. There was a great disturbance in her heart that was difficult to calm down for a long while. The island lord of Eastern Deity Island watched the other leave and sat there quietly. Yi Futian had inherited everything from her father and obtained the elixir. Apart from not being the actual descendant of her father by blood, he was more of an heir in every way, so she bestowed him the title as the second island lord. She was not hungry for power. Only strength could bring power. Otherwise, it was as fleeting as the clouds. If one day Yi Futian could reach a certain height, she wouldn't mind Yi Futian inheriting Eastern Deity Island. Although Zi Feng was following him, she didn't think it was enough. Yi Futian was not from Eastern Deity Island and would not have a sense of belonging regarding Eastern Deity Island. She needed to strengthen that feeling for him consistently. Since she had already approved of Yi Futian, she needed to do everything to bind him. Therefore, she decided to send Bai Mu to take care of him. She thought of choosing Huang Yan, but Huang Yan was a proud one. She probably would never serve Yi Futian willingly, so she decided to give this task to Baimu. As for this business about the goddess, Huang Yan had to stand down. If there was no Yi Futian, the official position for the goddess should have gone to Huang Yan. Her eyes focused outside and said clearly, "Today, disciple Baimu is officially designated as the goddess of Eastern Deity Island, ranking first among all the disciples, and her orders are to be obeyed by all." This voice came out and spread throughout Eastern Deity Island. In an instant, it resounded above the entire island. Baimu, who had just left, stopped in her tracks, but she did not look back. At this moment, she felt no joy or excitement. On the contrary, all this meant more responsibilities, and she still had a long way to go. She was not quite deserving of the position of goddess at present, and now the master had bestowed such position to her, she had to work on making herself worthy. Huang Yan was in another place. She looked back at the ancient temple from which she had just came out, her beautiful eyes fixated there, with confusion and doubts in her eyes. Conferring the title to Baimu as the goddess of Eastern Deity Island. What? Was it because of what happened in the ancient temple before? Because of what she said? She was a little puzzled and couldn't understand. She was not jealous, only that she could not understand why Master had made such a decision. In all aspects, she was more outstanding than Baimu. It was not just her, but everyone on Eastern Deity Island was looking in the direction of the voice, and their hearts were slightly disturbed. Baimu had been conferred as the goddess. Then what about Huang Yan? Why did the island lord choose to confer the title to Baimu at this time? By order of the island lord, congratulations to the goddess. At this moment, another voice resounded throughout Eastern Deity Island. It was a powerful figure in Eastern Deity Island. By order of the island lord, congratulations to the goddess. After that, there were other voices that were heard in response to the island lord of Eastern Deity Island. Soon, these voices flooded the island, resonating with the world, as if it was the will of the great path that must be accepted by those who heard it. In the palace where Yi Futian was, he raised his head slightly as the voices fell, and their sounds still lingered. Did this matter have anything to do with him? Emperor Yi. At this time, Shangguan Chuya walked over this way and said to him, Baimu has been conferred as the goddess. Wasn't Baimu the one who invited you to Eastern Deity? Yi Futian nodded. I didn't expect goddess Baimu to have such luck, Shangguan Chuya marveled. Just as she was speaking, a figure in the distance came in this direction. Shangguan Chuya was taken aback when she saw who it was. Just as she was speaking of Baimu, here she came. Baimu's appearance surprised her. Baimu had just been conferred as the goddess. Even though there was no official ceremony, shouldn't she be with the island lord at a time like this? No matter what, this was the last place she should be at this time. Pavilion Master Yi. Baimu landed and nodded at Yi Futian with a smile. Congratulations to the goddess. Yi Futian smiled. Congratulations to the goddess. Shangguan Chuya did the same. Thank you, Baimu responded with a smile. Goddess has just been conferred. How is it that you are already here? Shangguan Chuya asked with some doubt, but Yi Futian didn't. Instinctively, he felt that this matter might have something to do with him. On this trip to Eastern Deity Island, Pavilion Master Yi demonstrated unparalleled talent. Master conferred the title of goddess on me so I could follow Pavilion Master Yi in cultivation. For many years, I have been cultivating in Eastern Deity Island, and it's time that I cultivate outside of the island. I wonder if I will have the opportunity to cultivate with Pavilion Master Yi in the outside world? Baimu spoke with a very soft voice, and her tone was very polite. Hearing her words, Yi Futian was assured of his speculation. It seemed that the island lord had made her decisions so that a goddess would follow him in cultivation. Indeed, Baimu was conferred as the goddess of Eastern Deity Island because of him. On the side, Shangguan Chuya looked shocked. In such a circumstance, how could she fail to understand that for Baimu, who had just been named as the goddess of Eastern Deity Island, to follow Yi Futian out in the world to cultivate, implied that a goddess was to be Yi Futian's path companion? Obviously, her understanding was a little off. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1938, Attainment of the Divine Flame. Chapter 1938, Attainment of the Divine Flame. Yi Futian's understanding was different from that of Shangguan Qiuye. For the island lord of Eastern Deity Island to confer the title of goddess just to let that goddess follow him in cultivation was all but acknowledged his status. However, for a goddess to follow him might also be a way to keep tabs on him. However, he had a good impression of Baimu. They had picked the right person, so he had no reason to refuse her. He nodded and said, "If the goddess doesn't object, I would have no reason to decline." Then it settled. "From now on, I will cultivate in this palace. If Pavilion Master Yi has any instructions, just let me know," Baimu said. Yi Futian nodded and began to understand the intention of the island lord. She wanted to use Baimu to connect him to Eastern Deity Island. "Thank you, goddess." Yi Futian smiled and nodded once he understood the intention, while Shangguan Qiuye beside him blinked and wondered if that was all. He was not humble at all, shameless to the extreme. Shangguan Qiuye still thought that Eastern Deity Island was using Baimu to win Yi Futian over. She didn't know that Yi Futian had already inherited from the supreme deity Donglai, swallowed the elixir of Eastern Deity Island, and was now the second island lord of Eastern Deity Island. "Pavilion Master Yi need not address me as goddess anymore, just call me by my name," Baimu said. "Very well," Yi Futian nodded. "Baimu, Eastern Deity Island should have a place for alchemy, right?" Baimu nodded. Eastern Deity Island was created by Supreme Deity Donglai, who was a master-level alchemist. Eastern Deity Island was steeped in alchemy, and many of its people were experts in the art of alchemy. "Are you good at it?" Yi Futian asked. Baimu shook her head. "I am not gifted in alchemy. Alchemy requires a strong comprehension of the Great Path. Any good alchemist could induce movements from the flowering tree. So, a powerful alchemist must have a strong talent for cultivation?" Yi Futian asked, and Baimu nodded. This was also the reason why a powerful alchemist was extremely rare. For a person with outstanding talent, it was enough to improve his strength through cultivation. There was no need to be distracted by alchemy. If so, I should have great potential for it. When you have time, you can take me to observe the alchemy in action here. Maybe I have a hidden talent in alchemy, Yi Futian said with a smile. Baimu knew the inside story and understood the reason behind Yi Futian's request to observe. Having inherited everything from Supreme Deity Donglai, Yi Futian now had a real chance to become a top master alchemist, provided that he was willing to spend time and energy on it. "When will Eastern Deity Island be closed?" Yi Futian asked. "It will be closed in 3 days. By then, all the cultivators will leave Eastern Deity Island," Baimu said, as Yi Futian nodded in acknowledgement. Once Eastern Deity Island closed, the news would be spread to the outside, and all of the Penglai continent would know what happened to Jun Chuyan. Of course, this did not rule out the possibility that the other party already knew of it, and this possibility was very high. After all, there were indeed such magical treasures in the world of cultivation. He and Xia Qingyuan owned a Zimu Yuanyang mirror, and it was highly probable that the news had already leaked out. But Jun Chuyan was in his hands, so the cultivators from the Jun family should not dare to provoke him. However, now was the time to consider the next step. Before that, they must first collect the divine fire of Wutong. "Zifeng, shall we go to Wutong Island now?" Yi Futian said to the phoenix that was not far away. Obviously, the two had reached an agreement to let Yi Futian take ownership of the divine fire of Wutong. "Yes," Zifeng nodded, and the two walked away together. Shangguan Qiuye, Baimu, and the others looked at them in amazement. What were they going to do on Wutong Island? "Wait for the little condor," a voice came from behind. "Condor-sama, spread his wings to catch up. If he didn't, he would be left behind." Before long, they appeared on Wutong Island together. Although Zifeng was not there, the Wutong divine tree was still on the island. No one had been able to take away the Wutong divine flame. This was a divine fire, and it was a divine fire of the great path conceived by the phoenix. It was possible to leverage its power to cultivate, but impossible to refine it for one's own possession, At least there was no one strong enough yet in Eastern Deity Island to do so. However, Yi Futian claimed he had a way. Leave Wutong Island immediately. Zifeng swooped down. Her red dress was brilliant, and a sudden burst of overwhelming pressure bloomed from her. An illusion of the divine phoenix appeared on her body, sheltering the sky and the sun. The divine flame enveloped the entire Wutong Island so that all the Wutong trees on the island swayed, as traces of divine flames diffused into the atmosphere. In just an instant, the temperature of Wutong Island suddenly rose. With the Wutong divine tree as the center, wisps of elusive flames lingered. The cultivators on the island glanced at Zifeng and knew that this was probably the master of Wutong Island, and they retreated toward the void. Yi Futian and the little condor swooped down and landed next to the Wutong divine tree. Yi Futian walked under the Wutong tree and sat down in a cross-legged pose. Zifeng was suspended above the Wutong divine tree, quietly watching Yi Futian, wondering how he could take away the divine fire of Wutong from the tree. At this moment, she faintly perceived traces of invisible air currents that came from Yi Futian, covering the Wutong divine tree. At this moment, the power of the flaming great path above the divine tree was constantly flowing toward him. Caution flashed across Zifeng's beautiful eyes, and she became a little more serious. At this moment, she was faintly aware that an independent area of the great path had appeared in this space, and the divine tree was shrouded within. In this area, there seemed to be invisible, ancient tree branches and leaves spreading, turning into the currents of the great path, infiltrated into the Wutong divine tree so that Yi Futian's body and the Wutong divine tree became one, continuing to swallow and absorb the light of the divine flame. The terrible divine brilliance was shining, and an indescribably blazing aura permeated the atmosphere. Divine Wutong tree turned into the color of the flame as if a golden divine fire was burning had rendered Yi Futian's entire body extremely radiant. Divine flame. Little Condor retreated into the void. He couldn't possibly withstand the power of this divine fire. But even the power of the divine fire was still being absorbed by Yi Futian little by little, which caused the surprised look on Zifeng's face. Unless he could resonate with divine flame, anyone else who came in contact with the divine flame, such as herself, would be incinerated, body and soul. This was also why the Wutong divine flame was still here though there was no one guarding it, because no one was able to take it away. But why was Yi Futian not hurt by it? Yi Futian's body was lit up with the divine brilliance of the flame, sparkled without ceasing. His entire body was radiant. The divine fire flowed about his body, also under great coercion. But even so, he didn't stop what he was doing. The strength of the shadow power that he encountered in the Shadow Realm Center was far more terrifying than this Wutong divine flame, yet it was absorbed and swallowed by him. Today, it would be the same with this Wutong divine flame. It was precisely because of the experience he had in the Shadow Realm that he could be this confident. After a long while, the divine glory on the divine Wutong tree gradually dimmed, and the divine light inside Yi Futian's body became even brighter. It was as if his entire body was bathed in the divine fire. He sat there cross-legged in cultivation, nor did he move. At the same time, the flame aura on the entire Wutong Island became weakened, and the power of the great path gradually dissipated on this island. It had been swallowed. Zifeng stared at Yi Futian below. Although she had been watching, she still did not understand how Yi Futian had done it. She could only feel that Yi Futian was an expert at a mysterious power and that this power was strong enough to tolerate the divine fire of Wutong. After some time had passed, the brilliance of the divine flame flowed over Yi Futian's body. He stood up and exhaled a long breath, which actually turned into a frightful hot current. Lifting his head, Yi Futian looked at Zifeng and said with a smile, "It's done. Where is the divine flame?" Zifeng looked at Yi Futian, her eyes wide. Didn't he say that he would help her to take it? Where was the divine flame? Could it be pocketed by this guy? Don't worry. Yi Futian saw Zifeng's expression and said with a smile, "Let's go back." As he finished speaking, he left in a flash, leaving behind an empty Wutong Island. After they left, many came to this side, and someone asked, "Who was that man?" "Yi Lianyan." He had already destroyed many opportunities of the Great Path, and they were all monopolized by him. Later, he breached the chessboard matrix and entered the core island. Now it seems that he may have been invited to cultivate on Eastern Deity Island and once again monopolize the opportunity on Wutong Island. How heartless, someone said. It seemed that Yi Futian was already quite famous on Eastern Deity Island. Yi Liuanyan, the pavilion master of Dongyuan Pavilion, I have heard about him. He disabled Jun Qiuyan of his cultivation, slaughtered hundreds of cultivators from the Jun family of Penglai continent. Even cultivators of the 8th realm couldn't escape fast enough. He is a ruthless man. Who knows what will happen if he goes into the outside world, someone next to him added. It seemed that everyone knew all that had happened on Eastern Deity Island in the past few days. After Yi Futian returned to Core Island, he continued to enjoy life, served daily with fine wine and delicacies, with more than one beauty by his side. Not only him but even those who came with him, such as Emperor Helian and Beigong Ao, were all enjoying the most luxurious lifestyle. He even asked Bai Mu to get him some magical pellets on account of cultivation and shared them with those who were the closest to him. Sometimes, he would even go and cultivate in alchemy. Shangguan Chuya watched all this, and her thoughts were tangled. Even though Yi Futian's talent was outstanding, and now he had entered Eastern Deity Island to cultivate, was there really a need for Eastern Deity Island to treat him so well? Moreover, the life that this guy led in Eastern Deity Island was practically like that of a king, perfect beyond words. Time seemed to go by very quickly. Finally, on this day, the journey to Eastern Deity Island was over. Eastern Deity Island invited several other geniuses who were on the island to stay and continue to cultivate there. At the same time, Eastern Deity Island opened up, and those cultivators who came for trials left successively. Some were happy and some were sad. But when the gates of Eastern Deity Island were opened, the whole of Penglai continent was shaken. A battle occurred on Eastern Deity Island, which affected several top forces in Penglai continent. Among them, many cultivators of the Jun family were slaughtered, and the great loss they suffered included their young master, Jun Qiuyan, who lost his cultivation. This news caused a great sensation in an instant, so much so that even a mighty army descended on Penglai deity region. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1939. What a good person. Chapter 1939. What a good person. Eastern Deity Island, Alchemy Area. Yi Futian sat cross-legged in front of an alchemy cauldron. His full head of long silver hair glimmered under the glow of the flames. With a bright sheen on his hair, he was like a fallen deity. The alchemy cauldron in front of him floated in midair. Flames of the way enveloped the cauldron and entered it, setting the inside on fire as well. From within the cauldron came waves of fragrance from elixirs. Threads of flames of the way seeped into the alchemy cauldron, causing continuous transformations inside the cauldron. Both his hands were busy forming seals. In the cauldron, an ethereal silhouette seemed to appear and control everything that was happening inside. To refine elixirs, one had to send his spiritual energy into the cauldron to carefully control every step in the refining process. Thus, anyone with a low level of cultivation would not be able to refine powerful elixirs. After some time, the alchemy cauldron emanated a bright divine light of the great path. An exquisite pill was forming within, and a loud rumble resonated out from the alchemy cauldron. It's more or less ready. Yi Futian's white hair suddenly fluttered. He slapped his palm on the cauldron, and a beam of light shot out. The cauldron lid opened, and an elixir in the form of a pill flew out. When Yi Futian saw the pill, he hesitated a moment, and his face revealed a grim expression. Although the pill levitating in the air emanated radiance of the Great Path and exuded an extremely strong aura of the Great Path, its physical appearance was weird and ugly. It looked just like an irregular and deformed stone and not at all like an elixir. Blunder! Yi Futian heard several people nearby whisper as they turned their gaze towards him. What an embarrassment! While this was his first time officially practicing alchemy, he had tried quite a few times before, and yet the elixir that he refined was still this ugly. Seeing him, The alchemy masters of the eastern deity island were rendered speechless. How could this be the prodigy alchemist that the island lord found for them? Perhaps the island lord wanted them to guide Yi Futian with the hopes that he would one day become a powerful alchemy master. My young friend, don't lose heart. You have already done well to be able to refine an elixir successfully on your first try. It isn't important what color it is, Huang said with a smile. Yes, its color is not crucial, and neither is its shape, another person said. Yi Futian nearly couldn't stay there any longer. What else was important then? Ahem. I've suddenly remembered that I still have something on. I'll leave first, Yi Futian said aloud, and then scurried away, with Bai Mu following behind him. After they left, the others started giggling. It seems like the one chosen by the island lord still has a long way to go. Alchemy will not be that simple, an old man said as he stroked his beard. It seemed that they were all in good spirits after seeing Yi Futian in such a state. This was to be expected. The island lord had Bai Mu bring Yi Futian over and allowed him to try his hand at refining elixirs with any materials he wanted to use. Such special treatment had them speechless with shock. It was his first time refining elixirs, and he also used the best ingredients. What was the outcome? Look at the elixir he refined. With this color, can it even be consumed? Everyone walked forward, and instantly, they all laughed. Who dares to try it? How about you? Oh no, thank you. You can have it instead, the people at the sides refused. They walked up to the front and drew the elixir pill out from the cauldron. Instantly, an intense wave of elixir fragrance washed over them. Although the elixir looked strange, its aura was certainly not weak. This contrast puzzled them greatly. After carefully examining the aura of the great path contained within the pill, a few people's expressions changed. It seems all right. I'll give it a try, someone said aloud. It's such an ugly elixir. Let me take one for the team instead, another person from the side also said. The people behind let out a puzzled expression. What was going on? Didn't they say they didn't dare take the elixir just moments ago? Let me try, another person said. However, while they were talking, the person holding on to the elixir swallowed it in one gulp. Everyone else was stunned when they saw this. How shameless! After swallowing the pill, a majestic aura of life seeped out from the person's body. Since he was not well versed in the great path of life, so whatever that was happening must be due to the effect of the elixir. A glorious life force shrouded his body, boosting his vitality unceasingly. It was as though a change was occurring throughout his entire body, and his aura became stronger. At this moment his white hair turned black, and the wrinkles on his face faded a little. His skin became smoother, and it was as though he was becoming younger. Everyone had a shocked expression on their faces, especially those who saw the miraculous changes occurring in the person. They were all astonished. A short while later, the middle-level Renhuang seemed to have been reborn. He looked like he became younger by a few decades, and his aura seemed to emanate strongly. Haha. The old man laughed aloud, seeming to be full of energy. His voice also seemed full of strength and said aloud, "The island lord has great foresight indeed. Our young friend Yi is an alchemy prodigy." Everyone was staring with their mouth agape. Just who was it who asked if anyone dared to consume the elixir just moments ago? What a cunning old man. They were greatly frustrated with themselves, bitter that they acted too slowly. What grade is it? Someone asked. It is a perfect grade elixir, level 5 pill of the great path, the old man replied aloud. The people who heard him nearly wanted to vomit blood. A perfect grade level 5 pill of the great path had the efficacy of a normal level 7 elixir. No wonder it could restore him to youth. The hue is unimportant, and neither is the shape. In alchemy, the most important thing is the level of elixir produced. The old man chuckled. Our young friend Yi is indeed a prodigy. He isn't bounded by rigid rules and takes the road not taken by others, forming his own style. He spent all his effort on maximizing the level of the elixir and disregarded the opinions of others. It is so rare to see someone of such strong will. This old man admires him indeed. Hearing the old man bragging, every one of them stared with their mouths agape. This was way too. What are you all looking at? As alchemists, you all have the title but don't have the ability to back it up. You only focus on the elixir's physical appearance and pay little attention to the fundamentals of the elixir itself. You even look down on the elixir refined by Renhuang Yi. Only this old man appreciated his work and thus consumed it. However, seeing this discrepancy in ability, I must also reflect properly. In terms of his competence in the way of alchemy, he is eligible to be this old man's mentor. I shall go visit him now. As he finished, he strode with large steps, and like a meteor, he sped out of the area and went to look for Yi Futian. The crowd who remained behind looked at his shrinking silhouette with mouths agape. How shameless can this old man be? Someone pointed at his shrinking back and scolded angrily. How can such a shameless person exist in the world? The rest of the people were also infuriated. This was ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. He was too shameless. After cursing their hearts out, someone asked, "So, are we going?" "I have something else on, so I'll take my leave first," someone said. "I also have something else, so I'll leave you all on your own," another person said. The person who was cursing the most aggressively became the one to run the fastest. The person who posed the question just now was a little stunned. In the blink of an eye, everyone had fled. "Shameless!" He shouted angrily and then followed behind everyone else as he strode away. Everyone who claimed to have something else to do headed in the same direction. Thus, on this day, the pavilion in which Yi Futian was living was especially bustling, causing many people to stare with their mouths agape. The alchemy masters who were normally arrogant were all looking for Renhuang Yi, and their attitudes could even be said to be one of reverence. The Bai Mu, who was in the pavilion, saw the arrival of the alchemy masters and was also speechless. What in the world happened? "We are all here to pay a visit to our young friend Yi," someone said. "Does he have some spare time now?" "Pavilion Master Yi was just about to go out for a walk," Bai Mu replied. "Is there anything you need from Pavilion Master Yi?" She was still confused. What was this scenario? Nothing of great importance, actually. It's just about refining elixirs. "We would like to discuss things with him a little more," someone said. Bai Mu let out a puzzled expression. Did they want to discuss things about alchemy with Yi Futian? Little did they know that Yi Futian was just a low-level Renhuang when he managed to refine a perfect grade mid-level pill of the Great Path. He had already surpassed the vast majority of them, which was an impressive feat. Yi Futian had just started learning alchemy. In the future, wouldn't it be easy for him to refine high-level elixirs? It would be effortless for him. Even though they were alchemy masters, they were also practitioners. Therefore, elixirs were extremely important to them as well. Just now, the old man gained a lot of benefits after taking the pill of the Great Path made by Yi Futian. "Preparing for your visit had me quite nervous," a voice called out from somewhere. Yi Futian stepped through the air and arrived next to them. "My young friend, you please. You managed to refine such a miraculous elixir so casually, and it had us all humbled. Thus, we have come to invite you to discuss more about the way of alchemy. We also have some questions that we hope you can provide some guidance on." Bai Mu, who was listening in, was so surprised that her eyes widened, and she was rendered speechless. These stuck-up alchemy masters were going to seek guidance from Yi Futian? Yi Futian had just begun to learn alchemy. She was under the impression that alchemy was very difficult. Could it be that Yi Futian refined an extremely powerful elixir just now? "I would like to exchange more ideas with you seniors. However, I'm afraid I won't have many more chances in the future." Yi Futian sighed. "Now that the Eastern Deity Island has opened, I might have to leave. While I was training on the Eastern Deity Island, I was continuously pursued by people who wanted me dead and had no choice but to offend the Jun family virtuosos. The Jun family of the Penglai continent probably hates my guys now, but for some personal reasons, I have no choice but to face them. Once I leave, I don't think I can return. A Penglai continent is no big deal. My young friend Yi, wait a little while, and I'll get some people to help and accompany you." "Exactly, my young friend Yi, don't worry. We will accompany you. I'll go find the island lord now. Leave these matters to us." Voices offering help sounded out, and Yi Futian was almost moved to tears. Such a bunch of wonderful people. Having understood that he suffered injustice, they were willing to help him out. Bai Mu stood there, feeling quite perplexed indeed. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1940. Departure from the Island. Chapter 1940. Departure from the island. Many virtuosos hailing from various continents gathered after the Eastern Deity Island trial ended in the Penglai Deity region. Many virtuosos did not leave straight away. All the practitioners gained something from this journey, and several people obtained huge benefits. Of course, none of them could compare to Yi Futian. After all, Yi Futian obtained the source of a relic of the Great Path. Furthermore, this was only one of the few relics of the Great Path that Yi Futian had taken for himself. He did not even touch the vast majority of relics. Nonetheless, everyone had their own chance meetings and benefits gained. After they departed from the Eastern Deity Island, the Penglai Deity region became even busier, and trades became even more common. Apart from this, many people were exchanging stories and discussing the Eastern Deity Island's gossip and what happened there. For example, some rumors said that among the people who entered the Eastern Deity Island, one of them was a mysterious virtuoso from the ancient royal family, the Jiang clan. To most of the practitioners who went to the Eastern Deity Island, the ancient royal family was an unrelatable entity. Thus, many people were quite surprised that the Eastern Deity Island had actually managed to attract the ancient royal family's virtuosos. However, the person that attracted the most attention this time was not the virtuosos from the ancient royal family, the Jiang clan. Rather, that person was a Ren Huang who was apparently the pavilion master of the Dongyuan Pavilion, Yi Lianyan. This person performed outstandingly well in the Eastern Deity Island. He managed to obtain relics of the Great Path consecutively and killed many Renhuangs, and his methods were callous and cold. What really made people afraid of him was that he had slain nearly all the virtuosos from the Jun family, one of the top-tier factions in the Penglai continent. Moreover, he completely crippled Jun Qiuyan's cultivation. This event had already made its way around the Penglai deity region, and the practitioners of the Penglai continent had also dispatched virtuosos to this place. In this Penglai deity region, virtuosos of the Jun family could be found everywhere. As long as the Dongyuan Pavilion Master came out, the only fate that awaited him was death. However, it was said that the Dongyuan Pavilion Master had been regarded as an important figure by the Eastern Deity Island and had entered the island to cultivate. At the same time, there was another rumor that was spreading through the Penglai deity region. The rumor said that when the Eastern Deity Island initially opened, a mysterious virtuoso caused the flowering tree to blossom to its full glory. However, no one knew who this person was. Some people thought it was a phenomenon caused by the tree itself, while others believed that someone was intentionally hiding his identity. Many people guessed that the practitioner who caused such an extraordinary reaction in the tree was none other than the Dongyuan Pavilion Master Yi Lianyan. This person's performance in the Eastern Deity Island was far too outstanding. He managed to obtain opportunities of the Great Path, and he entered the Eastern Deity Island with a record low loss of 0 helpers. No one could compare to him. It was also said that after that, he returned to Wutong Island and took away the divine fire of Wutong. However, this was merely a rumor, and many people did not know how true it was. No matter the factual accuracies of these rumors, it was undisputed that the person who caught the most attention during this journey in the Eastern Deity Island was the Dongyuan Pavilion Master, the one who could escape the incessant murderous pursuit of Jun Qiuyan only due to Bai Mu's assistance. In the Penglai deity region, many silhouettes flashed by. Some were walking on the ground, while in the skies above, others were walking in midair. At that moment, another overpowering aura washed over from the space above. All the virtuosos raised their heads and saw a group of darkly clothed virtuosos traversing in the air above them. This caused quite a flurry among the crowd. That group was an entire army of Renhuangs. Are they Jun family virtuosos? Someone asked. Nope. In the crowd, someone had a quizzical expression in their eyes. He continued in a low voice, they are Yun family virtuosos. The Yun family of the Penglai continent? The people surrounding were silently shocked. In the Penglai continent, the Yun clan and the Jun family were factions of the same level. What were they going to do, bringing in such a large army? Before everyone recovered from their shock, another strong aura descended upon them. Raising their heads, they saw, once again, a large army rush past them. This caused many people to be stunned. What was going on? Are they also Yun clan virtuosos? I've seen one of them in the Eastern Deity Island. At that time, that person was with Shangguan clan's Shangguan Qiuye, guarding her, someone said. This caused another shock among the crowd. The virtuosos of the Shangguan clan had also arrived. In the Eastern Deity Island, even though the Jun family and the Shangguan clan did not clash face to face, there were certainly conflicts between them, and in particular, that happened when Jun Qiuyan's cultivation was crippled. Everyone could vaguely feel that a huge storm was brewing. It seemed that 3 of the top-tier factions in the Penglai continent had already gathered in the Penglai deity region. At the entrance to the Eastern Deity Island, a column of silhouettes walked out. The person taking the lead was a lady who had an extraordinary air about her and stunning features. When she stepped out, she looked at the crowd surrounding her and sent out her divine consciousness. Right after that, a row of virtuosos appeared and flashed toward her. Very quickly, they stopped next to Shangguan Qiuye. One of them said, "My lady." Shangguan Qiuye nodded her head slightly and said, "Have you all arrived?" "Yes, all of us have arrived," the other person replied. Shangguan Qiuye took a step out and said, "Let's go." As she finished, the row of people strode away from where they were. Before she came out of the island, she had already notified her clan and had her clan's virtuosos come over as reinforcements. Due to what happened on the Eastern Deity Island, she was worried that something might happen, so she had already started making arrangements some time ago. A short while later, they arrived at a tavern in the Penglai deity region. It was rather quiet around here, and the atmosphere had a refined feel to it. There were no unwanted noises around. The entire tavern had been rented by someone. A middle-aged man sat there quietly, drinking alcohol. It was when Shangguan Qiuye arrived that he put down his cup of wine and shouted, "Qiuye?" "Father," Shangguan Qiuye replied. The middle-aged man turned out to be Shangguan Qiuye's father. This meant that he was the Shangguan clan's current leader, Shangguan Hong. "How did your cultivation at the Eastern Deity Island go?" Shangguan Hong asked Shangguan Qiuye as he looked at her. He felt that his daughter's aura had a slight change and thought she probably achieved significant progress. I obtained quite several opportunities." Shangguan Qiuye nodded. "Of course, in this journey, the most important thing was that I made an acquaintance with someone." "The Dongyuan Pavilion Master?" Shangguan Hong asked. "Yes, the Dongyuan Pavilion Master Yi Lionian." Shangguan Qiuye nodded. "Previously, I've sent father some news. This Yi Lionian has astounding potential. We might even not be able to find someone who can rival him in the entire Penglai continent." Shangguan Hong nodded his head slightly. "I have also heard quite a few rumors about him. On the Eastern Deity Island, did you observe their attitude?" Shangguan Qiuye replied. "The Eastern Deity Island will definitely support him." "Are you certain?" Shangguan Hong asked. "To what extent are they willing to do it?" "I'm certain," Shangguan Qiuye replied very seriously. "If I guessed correctly, the Eastern Deity Island will definitely guarantee his safety even at the cost of declaring war." Before she exited the island, Yi Futian had spoken a little to her. Even if they didn't talk in the Eastern Deity Island, she could observe the situation and clearly tell how the people of the Eastern Deity Island treated Yi Futian. This Yi Futian was enjoying an emperor's treatment on the Eastern Deity Island. The feeling that it gave people was that Yi Futian was the Eastern Deity Island's young lord. "I understand now." Shangguan Hong nodded his head, his eyes glinting sharply. He had already more or less decided in his heart. This was a huge opportunity for him. At that moment, an overpowering aura washed over the tavern from the outside. The Shangguan clan virtuosos immediately went out to stop the hostile guests. From afar, a row of silhouettes descended majestically. They levitated in midair, staring at the tavern. "Shangguan Hong," a cold voice sounded. Shangguan Hong stood up and took a few steps forward. He looked up at the silhouette in the sky. "Jun Xiaoyao." Shangguan Hong looked toward the person who arrived. The leader of the Jun family had also arrived. Jun Qiuyan was this Jun Xiaoyao's son. Behind him, the Renhuangs were exuding a terrifying aura. Jun Xiaoyao's sights settled on Shangguan Qiuya. His eyes carried a murderous intent. He said, "I heard that on the Eastern Deity Island, Shangguan Qiuya was going to lead the people of the Shangguan clan to deal with my Jun family, causing the countless deaths and severe injuries suffered by Jun family's virtuosos. Shangguan Hong, is the Shangguan clan going to give me an explanation?" "Brother Xiaoyao, I'm afraid you are mistaken," Shangguan Hong calmly replied. "I've just asked my last Qiuya just now. She said that she had not even acted once since the beginning, and the people of my Shangguan clan also did not partake in it. I believe they would not lie to me." "Shangguan Hong, I do not wish to debate with you over this matter any longer," Jun Xiaoyao coldly replied. "Answer my question directly. How are you going to settle this?" "I don't understand what you mean," Shangguan Hong replied blandly, as though he was completely indifferent to Jun Xiaoyao. Just as he finished speaking, Jun Xiaoyao's body exuded an incomparably intimidating might of the Great Path. In their surroundings, it seemed like storms of the Great Path were brewing. Many people felt it pierce into their bones, and in the distance, many felt waves of coldness wash over them. As they were speaking, practitioners were continuously walking out of Eastern Deity Island. Finally, at the entrance to the Eastern Deity Island, a white-haired silhouette walked out. The moment he appeared, countless people set their sights on him, as though everyone was staring at him. The silhouette that walked out of the Eastern Deity Island was Futian. He stood there quietly and felt countless gazes. He was a little surprised. He did not expect himself to be this popular. There were also many divine consciousnesses sweeping toward him from afar. Futian turned his head behind and looked at the crippled Jun Qiuyan and said, "Your family has come to welcome you back." Jun Qiuyan's aura had already deteriorated to an extremely weak state. He was almost half dead. His eyes carried a poisonous hatred, but there was also a glint of hope in them. Now that Futian had finally left the Eastern Deity Island, he was going to witness, for himself, how Futian died. From a great distance away came strong auras. Jun Xiaoyao's eyes were as cold as ice, and he turned them to look at Shangguan Hong. Last time he had not even sought revenge on the Shangguan family. How dare they interfere with this too? "Brother Shangguan, you really want chaos to descend on this world, eh?" Another voice echoed out. From another direction came another grand army of virtuosos. This time, they were virtuosos from the Yun clan. Many people felt a tremor in their hearts. Before this, many people had noticed that armies from the three top-tier factions of the Penglai continent had arrived at the Penglai deity region. Now that Futian had walked out of the Eastern Deity Island, as expected, the virtuosos from each faction appeared simultaneously. The Shangguan clan had always been subtly at odds with the Jun family. On the other hand, the Yun clan seemed to have allied with the Jun family. Looking at the vast number of people that each faction had brought along, each of them must have considered things very carefully beforehand. "Then does this matter also involve the Yun clan?" Shangguan Hong asked. If he guessed correctly, everyone wanted to make use of the opportunity of this dispute to further their own agenda. Apart from slaying Futian, it seemed that the Jun family also wanted to join hands with the Yun clan to deal with the Shangguan clan. Then again, he also had a very similar plan. He wanted to make use of the possibility that the Eastern Deity Island would be involved and deal with the Jun family. The situation at that moment was like an arrow that had already been strung. There was no going back. All that was left unknown was whether Shangguan Qiuya's information was accurate and how much Futian was worth to the Eastern Deity Island. Liuyan was extremely wanton in the Eastern Deity Island. He massacred without a second thought. He has the blood of countless practitioners on his hands. As a faction of the Penglai continent, the Jun family also suffered the loss of many Renhuangs, and even our nephew Jun Qiuyan had his cultivation crippled. Given this circumstance, you dare say this matter has nothing to do with the Yun clan? Said Yun Mu, the leader of the Yun clan. Beside him, Yunja glanced at Futian. He did not dare to provoke him on the Eastern Deity Island. However, now that he had exited the Eastern Deity Island, No matter how talented he was bound to die this time. There were rumors about how Yi Futian had joined the Eastern Deity Island and was in their favor. However, it was just that. The two top-tier factions had dispatched large armies to slay Yi Futian. Even if Yi Futian is in the Eastern Deity Island's favor, how much were they willing to give up for him? The Eastern Deity Island had hidden for countless years. It was not possible that they would declare war on the two top-tier factions of the Penglai continent for the sake of one Yi Futian. Seeing him act, Shang Guanhong crossed the distance with a step and faced Yun Mu straight on. The two of them each controlled a top-tier faction, and disputes had existed between them since a long time ago. Now that things had progressed to this stage, they both had no choice but to wage war. It was a fight for their fates. The one who lost would be fated to stay defeated forever. The other virtuosos also started unleashing their attacks. Looking towards the battlefield, Yi Futian also walked into it. Since the war had already begun, then he could only annihilate the Jun family and the Yun clan. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Since they had the same spirit, the divine wheel that they forged would also be very alike. A breath-stopping pressure pressed down from the heavens, causing the air in the entire area to become impossibly heavy. It was as though one could not even stand steadily. Yi Futian felt a limitless power pressing against him. The divine palaces hammered down. Aurorae of the great path stretched across the skies. These aurorae contained enough power to dominate and shatter any great path, and it was like they could flatten any and everything. Yi Futian's divine sword swept across the air. His will of the sword raged, whipping up a violent storm around him. However, the terrifying blades of light were continuously pulverized. A fearsome rumble reverberated throughout the skies, and the divine palaces descended, as though they were going to seal the heavens. In the face of this power, the Yi Futian below seemed to be especially minuscule and powerless. Is the Eastern Deity Island actually not going to help him? The virtuosos onlooking from afar spoke aloud. Even though the Jun family had a lot of virtuosos blocking the people from the Eastern Deity Island in their attempt to hunt Yi Futian down, the Eastern Deity Island certainly had the ability to render aid. However, they did not do this. Rather, they stayed outside the encirclement, holding their opponents back. Was this because they had confidence in Yi Futian? The people attacking Yi Futian were all core members of the Jun family, and were all level 7 high-level Renwangs. When they unleashed their well-honed skills simultaneously, their powers resonated with each other, and the entire space would completely fall under their control. The region would morph into a great path domain, and everything within it would be utterly dominated and shattered. The endless divine palaces were about to hammer down on Yi Futian and smash him into smithereens, when all of a sudden Yi Futian's body radiated an incomparably glorious green divine glow. In that instant, a divine tree appeared with his body at its center. Countless trees and branches sprouted and spread outwards, continuously winding towards the divine palaces that were closing in on him. Many people let out a strange expression. Was this also his spirit? The ancient tree was growing at a rate that was too terrifying, and it expanded out at a fearsome speed, eventually morphing into a divine tree that was tens of thousands of feet tall. Its incomparably thick trunk was even larger than a divine palace. The vines and branches that twirled towards the divine palaces were similarly extremely sturdy, emanating an unrivaled, green divine glow. However, this was not what made the divine tree amazing. Normally, ancient trees were very weak and could be easily destroyed. This divine tree, however, seemed to have an unrivaled life force. The divine attacks of the great path that rained down on the divine tree actually failed to destroy it.